I'm Katie Kempner, and welcome to Perspectives here at Advertising Week on the Huffington Post stage. Perspectives is a series of inspiring conversations with remarkable working women who are balancing very busy lives. And right now, I am honored to be talking with my friend Erika Nardini, CMO of AOL. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for stopping by.
Of course. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. So why don't we just jump in a little bit?
Let's
you have had really such an amazing career, and I've known you for a nice portion of it.
Of course, yeah.
And just talk about your role right now.
Sure. So I lead our marketing efforts at AOL, which really spans how we think about the AOL Inc. brand, the way that we develop our consumer marketing platforms with brands such as TechCrunch or Makers and AOL.com. I look after our B2B position and how we think about connecting our assets, whether they're advertising technology or publishing technology or premium content, and how we bring those to market for leading agencies and advertisers. And then I spend a lot of time thinking about the way that AOL manifests itself, whether it's in PR, whether it's in physical events, in the collateral that we create, or the partnerships that we strike. So it's an interesting and dynamic role.
And before that, you've had a number of terrific roles too. And you've had a very interesting career trajectory. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you went from one to another?
Sure. I started my career, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. And I took a job this was in the mid to late 90s, and I was making $50,000 a year, which felt like a lot of money.
That seemed like a lot.
A lot of money back then. And it was at Fidelity Investments, and I was incredibly stifled and bored. And I went to the HR person and I said, I want to be in a role that's about media. I'm interested, digital was so nascent at that point in time. I want to be in a place where I can be creative. And there was a role opening at Fidelity's in-house ad agency. And she told me it would be the single worst career decision of my life. I would go from making $50,000 to $17,000, and it was just a very bad, non-prestigious move. But I really believed in my gut that it was something that would be fulfilling for me, and I believed that I could learn a lot and have great impact. And so that was really the beginning of my career in advertising. I went on to work at several ad agencies, both on the creative and the media side. And then I really fell in love, when I went to work for Microsoft, I fell in love with the publishing and the content business. And so what I've always sought to do is to be in a position where I can learn a tremendous amount, but also be able to build and create simultaneously. I think the combination of those two things is addictive. It really fuels and drives me personally. And so my career has always been a little bit of intuition, a combination of that and some opportunity and real belief in taking risk.
I love what you say about, you were told it wasn't a good job opportunity, but you listened to your gut, because I think a lot of times women especially feel that they can't really follow what they want to do because for whatever reason it wouldn't be smart.
I completely agree. One of the things that I've really loved in my career and even in my family is I think there's a great point when you're afraid and you're looking at crossing the chasm to something or taking a jump to do something. Fear can be such a powerful motivator, and it's good to address why are you afraid? I was afraid to have a baby. I was afraid what it would do to my career. I was afraid to move from, a very conservative, stable job environment at an ad agency to working internationally in content at a company based in Seattle across the country. So I think the idea of taking risks and being able to swallow that fear it's life.
I happen to know that you overcame the fear of having a baby.
I
went
did.
on to have more than one.
I did.
But I want to talk a little bit about that because I remember talking to you and seeing you during that point. And really, you sacrificed a lot because you lived and worked in totally different places. So can you tell us about that, and also how did you do that?
Sure. I had tried for a long time to have a baby. It was not easy for me, and I finally got pregnant, and I took a new job 6 weeks into knowing that I was having a baby. And the job was based in California, and I lived in New York. And it was a considered decision. It was swallowing that fear. It was taking a big jump. And we had our son 6 weeks before the company went public. So it was a crazy ride all throughout. And what really sustained me both during my pregnancy and certainly after we had our first baby was the idea of really being able to commit simultaneously to a family and to a career, and knowing that the simultaneous commitment would often be in conflict. It wouldn't be at the same time, it wouldn't be in the same place. But what the distance allowed me, it allowed me that when I was home or in New York, I was very much prioritized to what my family needed. And when I was in California and working or with customers or clients, I was very focused on 24/7 being attuned to those needs. So while it was hard I was not balancing the two at the same time in the same place, it really enabled me to have an incredible amount of focus in two environments that I was able to actually keep somewhat separate. My home life, my city, and my work life, and my company.
A lot of women that I speak to say they always feel this level of guilt. If they're at work, they feel kind of guilty, because they should be doing something at home. If they're at home, they feel kind of guilty. Do you deal with that as well, or have you been able to work on that?
I try not to feel guilty. I think feeling guilty is a really horrible way to feel. I believe in having a really strong support structure, whether that's at home and it's my husband or my nanny, or it's at work and it's a team or a boss or a partner. There are times when I feel horrible because I'm not fully in one thing or at one place or in another. But what I try to do is to look at, in the broadest sense, if I look at a week or I look at a day or I look at a month or a year, carving out really distinct times for all of the things in my life that are important, whether it's our kids and our family, girlfriends and the relationships, my network, and then certainly I'm really addicted to working. I love to work, and that will always be a part of who I am and what I do.
So let's just talk very briefly. The conversation about working women has been elevated so much in the past few years, and I think it's just wonderful with Lean In and Makers. And I'd love to just talk a little bit about Makers and where that's going.
Absolutely. Makers is premiering a documentary film tonight on PBS around women in comedy. And what's really exciting about Makers is Makers started as really a preeminent collection of women's stories. And it was the most luminous women: Gloria Steinem, Sheryl Sandberg, Hillary Clinton, Condoleezza Rice. And what's really emboldening about Makers is it really captured the heart and the power of these women's stories. What's even more exciting is what Makers will become, which is the idea of marrying those stories and the archive and the library of the women's movement with your story and my story and the story of women around the world, everyday women. We are having a panel tomorrow pairing Gloria Steinem and Sam Gordon. Sam Gordon is an 11-year-old girl who is a football star. And Gloria Steinem is, the architect of the women's movement. And what's exciting is that both of them are very similar. They share a passion, they share a drive. They're different life stages, different places, different eras even. But the idea that every woman has a story and that story deserves to be told and that there is a maker in all of us is something that I'm deeply passionate about.
Yeah, well, so am I. Then just to wrap it up, talking about your story.
Yes.
I like to end by asking if there's one piece of advice that has really helped guide you through your career and your life. Could you share it with us?
Sure. I have two pieces of advice. Probably,
we'll
I would imagine most women have more than one. The first is one of my mentors and a woman who had a really fantastic role in my life, Joanne Bradford, who you know well. She would always say that you only ever had two choices, and one choice was to laugh and the other was to run. And I think that's a great way to think about whether your kids are driving you nuts or your job is taxing and stressful. You really only ever have two choices, which is to find pleasure and joy and laughter and humor, or to get the hell out of Dodge. So I've always loved that advice. The second is really the idea of living to the next play, and that whatever happens, good things, bad things, challenging things, setbacks, successes, that you really need to keep your eye on the next play. I grew up playing sports, and it was always, you got to dust yourself off and get back up if you've fallen down. if you've scored a goal or you've had an achievement, you've got to get back out on the field and start all over again. So I think that that's really important in building a life and building a career and building yourself, which is you're not ever any one thing, and you never can stop.
You never stop. It's so true. Well, you certainly don't.
Sometimes.
It's a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.